All right. Well, obviously, I'm Mrs. Schultz, and I teach chemistry and physics here at ILO. I've been teaching quite a while, 15 years now. Primarily everything from 7th to 12th grade science, primarily in chemistry and physics. That's where I spend most of my time and where I really enjoy spending, most of my time teaching. And those are the students I tend to enjoy interacting with the most. I just wanted to kind of give an opportunity to talk a little bit about the structure of the class, talk about office hours, talk about end dates, talk about, the various types of due dates and what needs to be done when, and so on and so forth. Because I know a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of questions about that. And so I want to make that information generally available. And also to give, people an opportunity to ask me their questions so that I can, address any concerns that they may have. So let's just kind of start with the structure of the class. The chemistry class, as you saw, is divided up into weeks. So each unit is made up of several different weeks worth of work. Some of the weeks may take a week to complete, and some of them may take more than a week, depending on how much material is covered and, kind of the general schedule. We tried to work around everybody's schedule as well as we possibly could, but of course, with everybody having different events all of the time, we can't possibly work around everybody's school schedule all at the same time always. That's just not realistic. And so, we tried to do things like not making stuff due over Thanksgiving weekend. That seems like it would be pretty logical, but we can't necessarily accommodate things like homecoming because everybody's got a different homecoming. It occurs at a different time, and we can't, otherwise the entire month of October, the end of September and into October would just have no homework at all, and that's not cool. Because then we end up with like 7 units that are all due in December, and nobody wants that. So we can't obviously accommodate those types of things. But if people do have something that comes up, for example, your school is going to be closed for 2 or 3 or 4 days for big tournaments, or one of the schools I used to teach at would have 2/3 of the students that would be gone for FCCLA. For a big, national meeting, and literally 2/3 of the student body would be gone. If those types of things happen, then you should let me know, because then we can make some accommodations as far as, look, I'm going to be out of town for the next 4 days, so obviously this week's work is not going to happen all in one day. And so then we have to reschedule them for the next week. But that's more of a one-on-one basis, and so people need to make sure that they let me know, and they need to let me know ahead of time. Please do not send me an email after you've been gone for a week and tell me, yeah, I've been gone for a week, okay? Unless you had like a horrible illness, you probably knew you were gonna be gone for a week. So tell me before you leave so that I can accommodate things.
Okay.
Otherwise I have to zero out assignments and it turns into a great big mess. And it's just bad. It's bad all around, so don't do that. Also, you'll notice that assignments are not necessarily always evenly distributed. We tried as best we could to spread everything out over the weeks as evenly as possible. Sometimes that works great, sometimes not really quite so much. Oftentimes the first week of a unit will have many more assignments to it than the second week, because the second week is going to be the major test, and so we expect you to spend more of your time studying and going back and reviewing and going over materials and doing that kind of thing, rather than necessarily doing lessons. And so please do not think that just because you open up a week and there's only 1 or 2 things in there that you can just like not do anything until Thursday. That would be a mistake. You don't want to do that. It should actually send off a red flag that says, oh, there's only 1 thing due this week. That means that 1 thing is probably super important and I should get in there and see what it is and spend some time on it, because it might be a research paper, it might be a big lab project, or what have you. It might be things that take a lot of time. So please make sure that you check in on Mondays especially and really see, okay, what am I looking at here for this next week coming up? I have structured the due dates so that everything is due on Friday for me. I have a lot of balls in the air, and I work for another school typically in the mornings. And so if I didn't make everything due on the same day, I would never be able to keep up with the due dates. It is not realistic for me to be able to keep up with that. And frankly, I think it's a little bit, if I tried to make something due every day, I think it would be a problem for all of you. Because once again, everybody's got a different schedule. You guys all have assignments due in other classes, and nobody can keep track of all of that. So I tried to make it simple. Just make everything due on Friday. Do not must turn in everything on Friday, okay? Because if I have 20 people who all turn in the entire week's assignments on Friday, I'm going to be very cross because I'm going to have to grade all of that over the weekend. And nobody wants the teacher grading their work to be upset, okay? So don't do that. Also, if I have to send something back to you because you screwed it up or the file didn't attach or whatever happened, there's no time for you to redo it if you send it in at midnight on Friday. And, there's a problem. So don't do that, okay? The deadline is midnight on Friday, so midnight tonight is when your orientation materials should be finished. I have had, in order, how do I say this? Okay. If you turn stuff in the last 3 minutes and the deadline is set for midnight, sometimes stuff doesn't go through properly. And so what I've done is set all of the deadlines for 1 a.m. the next day. That does not mean that the deadline is 1 a.m. the next day. I did that so that your files wouldn't get screwed up being turned in anytime between the hours of 11 and midnight. Okay? They all have timestamps on them. So if it comes in after midnight, I'm going to know. And you're going to get late credit for that. So just be aware of that. I don't think that's going to be a problem for any of you guys, but if anybody tries to work that, don't, because I'm paying attention, generally, most of the time. And so please don't do that. I'm going to try and grade as much of the work over the weekend as possible, depending on how many people turn in things, how big the things are, how many people decided to wait until Friday to turn everything in. I make no guarantees that things are going to be done on Monday. I'm going to try really hard. But if you want I will get things graded within about 24 hours if you turn it in during the week. I cannot make that same promise over the weekend. So do keep in mind, if you want your work turned around quickly, I am happy to do that for you during the week because then I'm only getting, 7, 8, 9, 10 assignments. I can get that stuff graded in a reasonable time. If I'm getting 45 assignments, depending on the assignments, that may or may not happen over the weekend. So just be aware of that. If I don't get your work graded, it's one of two things. You either, it came in a big group and I just didn't get it done, or I don't know about it. That's something else that you want to be aware with Moodle. When assignments get submitted, I get an email that says, hey, this assignment was submitted, most of the time. If you don't hit the submit button and you send it in as a draft, I won't get the email. So it will just sit there languishing in the inbox forever and ever because I will never know that it's there, okay, unless I stumble on it because I'm in there for something else. Or there are some assignments where even if you submit, they don't necessarily send me an email. I've contacted technical support to fix that, but we all know, they're kind of busy right now. So that's probably not going to get fixed right away. Not a huge priority for them. So if something has been sitting there for a couple days and you haven't heard anything about it, you should email me and say, hey, I sent this assignment in, and did you get it? Why is it not graded? What's going on? And you can be nice about it. That would be awesome. Chances are it's hanging out in the slot, and I don't even know that it's there because I never got an email about that. I'm actually running into that with chemistry week 1 assignments. Every assignment in week 1 for unit 1 never sends me an email. So there were assignments hanging out in there for 4 days that I had no idea were ever in there because I never got the email. So if that happens to you, please email me. It's not a bother. Oftentimes it is, I literally don't know that it's there. And if you tell me it's there, then I can go in there and take care of it, no problem. But let me know. So the due dates are typically going to be on Fridays. We have a couple of due dates. The very last due date is going to be on a Monday. December 14th is your last due date. That's going to be on a Monday. The reason for that is that's going to give me we have to have grades in by the end of the week. And that last project is a big project, and it's going to be fairly involved. And so it's going to be a lot of grading. And so I need to make sure that I have some time there to get that graded before the grades have to be finished by the end of the week. So that's the only due date that's really on a Monday. Everything else is on a Friday to get graded over the weekend, hopefully, fingers crossed, and get you guys started fresh for the new week. That's my goal. With that being said, just because the due date for the last unit is on Monday, that does not mean you have to, or on a Friday, that does not mean you can only access your work on a Monday. I made it so that the next unit will open up the same day that everything comes due. And so every new unit will open up on that same Friday, and it'll open at like 1 in the morning. And so it'll be available for you even starting on Friday itself. That gives you the maximum amount of time to take a look at what's going on, in the unit. It gives you Friday to send me an email if you have a question about materials, if you have a question about what are we doing or how does this work or yada, yada, yada. It gives you some time to do that before the weekend, because I know a lot of you are very, very busy. I have a couple of you that actually, when you send in your schedule, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to be working during the school day because my schedule is completely full. Yeah. Awesome, great. But that does cause a little bit of a problem if you need to get a hold of me or ask questions or any of those other things. So by making the work as available as possible while not allowing you to overlap yourself, that gives you Friday to ask me questions so that you can do most of your work over the weekend, because I know that there are a few of you who are doing that. And good on you for doing that. But we need to make sure that we can't let the units overcross each other, because if you start working in Unit 2, when you haven't finished Unit 1, you need the stuff from Unit 1 to do Unit 2. And so I had to set it so that they crossed over a little bit, but not very much. Also, please don't ask me to open things like super, super early. If you're working ahead, that's great, but I can't open things like 3 weeks down the road just for one person. If I open an assignment, it has to be open for everybody. And so everybody's going to have to kind of stay together a little bit. You'll have some flexibility within the week, but you're largely going to have to stay together. It's not because I'm mean. It's just because I can't actually open one thing for one person and not do it for everybody else. So I'm not trying to not be accommodating as far as that goes. It's the system. It's the way the system is designed. Discussions, as you noticed, are a big part of what we're doing. It's a lot of the evaluation that we use in this course, in addition to, problems and worksheets and papers and stuff. Discussions are a big part of it. The discussions are a little bit different than an assignment because the discussions are more timely. They have to occur within a certain time frame. And oftentimes you'll notice the discussions will say, hey, post your ideas and then respond to other people. Okay, those are going to be open for those same due dates, the same weeks that everything else is open. One thing that you want to make absolutely certain that you do is if you see something as a forum or a discussion, you need to get in there early. First of all, because if you get in there as one of the first 2 or 3 people, somebody probably hasn't taken your idea yet, and so you don't look like a copier. So that's a benefit for you. Second thing is if you need to respond to 2 or 3 people, there have to actually be people in there having a conversation in order for you to respond to them, funny enough. And so then you're doing yourself and your classmates a service by getting in there and actually posting early and posting often, because it gives you the most fodder in which to do replies. Because we're looking for like good replies, not like, hey, yes, I agree. We're looking for you to go a little deeper than that. So we want you to actually think about the topic and then actually come up with something meaningful to discuss with the group. And so that requires everybody to kind of pull their own weight a little bit. And if you're waiting until Thursday or Friday to even start posting in there, most of the good ideas are probably already being discussed. You're going to have to get really creative to come up with something unique there. And also, you're not giving anybody a chance to respond to you, and it's going to be very hard for you to meaningfully respond to others because you haven't been engaged in the conversation through the whole week. And so that gets to be a little bit tough. So do yourself a favor, and if you see a discussion is on docket for that week, you're looking on Fridays or Saturdays, looking at what's coming up. You know what, get in there on Monday, get in there on Tuesday, make some comments, because they're not long assignments, but you have to make sure that you kind of keep up with them. So do make sure that you take advantage of that. Don't wait until the last minute. That is one assignment where it is not to your benefit in any way to wait till the last minute. It rarely ever is, but it's really not in that situation. And I have actually been in a lot of online classes where I was the dude posting on Friday and it was due on Saturday because of my work schedule, especially in summer classes because I work all year round. And so, all these teachers have these wonderful, rich, lovely discussions. And I have a job. And so I didn't get in there until Friday. And yeah, it was not good. So don't do that. Learn from my experience. Avoid that. I'm going to be sending out email announcements on Monday we have several chemistry teachers. Some of us are actually, there's actually 3 of us who work with students from the same district even, because the district had a lot of students. And so we're going to try and coordinate as much as we can our own deadlines, making sure that the assignments are being due at about the same time, so as to minimize confusion, particularly for that one district that has students in all 3 of our classes, because that gets really confusing for the coach if we all have different timelines. So we're going to try and coordinate that as much as possible, and we're going to send out an email announcement every Monday to your coach, and then we're also going to put it on the class news and announcements. So make sure that you're subscribed to that so you can see kind of what's going to be coming up. We'll be talking a little bit about here are the topics that are going to be discussed in this week. Here are the deadlines you need to be aware of. Here's an assignment that you might find to be tricky. Here's something that I would, here's a resource I might suggest that you go to that could help you, or, any one of those types of things where, this is kind of what to expect going forward with the week. And we're also going to then post any class times that we're going to have. It's a little tricky, once again, because we have students in all over the school day to have an online class where everybody can actually get together. It's not like you have, 20 students all in the same room, all having class from 2 to 3. Yeah. That's not how this is working this year, which is fine. I know some of the other teachers have students a little more grouped than I do in this class, and my physics students are largely grouped in the one big group, which is awesome. But that's not what we've got. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of recorded classes so that people can watch when they're available. I'm also interested to know if any of you might be willing to attend an evening class. I can do those if that would be helpful for people. Being involved in a class face-to-face in real time is much better than watching a recording, especially if we're going over content.
Yeah.
Because if you have a question, especially about content, if you have a question, you want to be able to ask that right away and get an answer for it rather than waiting, and hoping that maybe I might discuss it or sending me an email. Anybody who's ever tried to get help with chemistry through an email knows just how incredibly difficult that is. I've been teaching online for 5 years, and I have probably multiple times a week I have actually sent students messages back that said, you do not want me to try to answer this over email. You need to call me and get help, because I would write it down on the paper and you would be just as confused by my email as you were by the curriculum that you didn't understand in the first place. And so if an evening class or, a particular set of daytime hours would work for classrooms, please send me that information, because I've tried to correlate class times that seem to suit people's class periods, but I got a lot of people with very nebulous things like, I've got this and this and this, and then, but they don't give me actual times, and so that's been a little tricky. Trying to sort out when people might actually be able to attend. It would be in your best interest to attend the class live if you possibly can. Because nobody has consistent class times, I can't really make them required. Like, I'm going to give you credit for it, but it is so much more helpful to be able to do it in real time, because it's more like being in a, I guess what you would call a real classroom. Where you can actually ask questions and get them answered. Mm-hmm. So I will be, hopefully I'll be able to get some data from you guys about when these classes could be held, and that if there are classes that week, they'll be on that Monday morning email to your coaches that says, look, I'm going to be teaching a class on this and this topic at this time, show up, and I can give you some help on that. Mm-hmm. There will be topics in chemistry that everybody will struggle with. There are about 10 ideas that everybody, everywhere, all the time, since the beginning of time until the end of time, will have trouble with. And I know all those areas, and I know when they're coming, so I'm going to be able to troubleshoot for you where you're going to get frustrated and throw the book against the wall, but you have to show up. And so, show up. Otherwise, I can't help you if you don't show up. You also can come and get help during my Zoom hours in the afternoon, but some of you are in classes. That's not your fault. I don't blame you. I get it. I made my classes so as to work around my schedule and as many people's schedule as possible, but it is what it is. And so if you need help, you need to tell me you need help, and then we need to make arrangements maybe in the evenings. But I do have, a family, and so I need to make sure that if I'm going to offer evening classes or if I'm going to open up sessions at 7 o'clock at night to help students, that people are going to show up. Because, you know, if I'm here, that means I'm not taking care of my kid. And then my husband's getting to do all of that, and he's got things he needs to do, and it all rolls downhill. And so we need to make sure I'm actually using my time wisely too, in the same way as like none of you want to waste your time. So please let me know if any class times would work, if you might be willing to do evening hours. We're all in the same time zone, and so that's real helpful, but I just need to know if people would actually show up. So those are some basics of kind of how the class is structured, what you can be looking for, things to look forward to, things to avoid doing, hopefully, to make things a little better for yourself. Do you have any questions for me or anything that you had a particular issue with?
So the online classes, like you'll probably be doing that a lot then?
It depends on demand. If nobody's going to attend, I won't do a ton of them. I might record a few where I'm going over those concepts, you know, and record those, but part of it depends on demand, and if people will show up. If people show up regularly, then yeah, heck, I could do a class a couple times a week. If people have an interest and are willing to show up, I'm happy to do that. It's not for a lack of desire on my part. It's simply a matter of, you know, I don't want to teach to an empty room, so to speak. So,
yeah.
And then there'll be units where you won't need any, you know. The unit on matter, most people don't really need a class on that material because some of it's review, most of it's kind of fairly obvious, it's giving you some background. We get to molarity, you're going to need some classes on that. If we get to the stoichiometry unit later in this semester, you're going to need a lot of classes on that. Formula writing, you're probably going to need some classes on that. So a lot of it's topical, and it tends to come in lumps. You know, there are a series of skill sets that you need here that are tricky. Or if you don't get skill 1, skill 2, 3, and 4 don't follow. And so you have to make sure you've got that skill set to move forward. It's very much like math in that way. You know, you need to have this set of skills to move forward to these others. So a lot of it will be topical. They'll come in bursts a lot of the time because of the nature of what we're covering. Most people don't need help with gas laws. A whole lot of people need help with organic chemistry. Most people don't need help with scientific notation. A whole lot of people need help with stoichiometry. So just depends.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't. Do you feel like you got a good handle on it? Of what you need to do to get through? And so it sounds like the support you kind of asked for as you needed. And
Okay. I think I'm good.
All right, good. If anybody else who's watching the recording happens to have a question for me, please email me. I'm trying to be as helpful as I possibly can. Whether it's navigating the website or where to find materials or how to do something, you know, just let me know. There's a lot of avenues to get a hold of me. You can call me, you can email me, you could text me, but I won't text you back, so you'll have to watch your email for the response. Or you could just show up in my Zoom room. You do not need an invitation to show up in the Zoom room. Just follow the link, show up, you know, anytime in there. Wait your turn if there's somebody else in there, and I'd be happy to help you. I'm in there from 1:30 to 3:30 every day, regardless of whether somebody's in there or not. And so,
Like on weekdays?
Weekdays, yeah, Monday through Friday, every day from 1:30 to 3:30. So I'm there doing nothing, or I'm there helping people, and I would just as soon be helping people. All you have to do is just show up and say, hey, Mrs. Schultz, I had a question. And I'm there, I promise. I won't have the video necessarily turned on because it creeps me out to watch myself. But I will be there, so if you say something, I will unmute myself and I will talk to you. So,
Okay.
I hope that has cleared up some things for people, and for you, Michaela, and so that we can kind of make sure that everybody's on the same page. As far as that kind of thing goes, like I said, it would be ideal if everybody could actually be all in the same class, all at the same time, but that's not what we have. And so we have to just try to make the best of what we've got to work with here. So email me if you think of any other questions. Everybody's got my email. And thanks a lot for coming, and you guys have a super day.
You too.